Hi, welcome back to Boat Life Balance with Captain Ned. What should we cover today? Well, I think last time I talked a little bit about the boat lifestyle advantage pillar of what we do and the four key pillars of what I think is really crucial in boating. Touching on those again, it is lifestyle expectation, area of operation, ease of use, and budget. We talked about lifestyle expectation, how to start thinking about your lifestyle expectation, opening your mind to it, and sort of being a bit honest with yourself about the real, the reality of what you're trying to achieve, as opposed to sort of overwhelming yourself with possibilities, like looking at things in a really basic terms of, what's a weekend look like, or what does a day on my boat going to look like, all those sorts of things. So that's the lifestyle expectation of it. So I guess the next thing is area of operation. Area of operation is so critical, and so often as a boating instructor I see this is the moment where I sort of sometimes feel like saying, right owner, wrong boat. What I mean by right owner, wrong boat is they've gone in with all the right uh, ethos, all the right feeling, all the right sensation, all the right lifestyle expectation of boating, and it's awesome. We love it. We went boating with our friends. We did all this, and they've gone and got a boat that just doesn't match their area of operation. Like, they've looked at a brochure, they've been to a boat show, and they've gone, "Oh, this is great. Look at this," and they're sitting on there. "Oh, it's beautiful. Look how the couches are great. This is great." Nothing wrong with an owner looking at a boat from the lifestyle down. However, you don't know what you don't know when it comes to understanding sometimes the boat from the keel up. Yeah. So, what's its underwater profile? What's it actually designed to do? What sort of conditions is it designed to operate in? Is this a fair weather boat? Is this a moderate weather coastal cruiser? Is this an ocean going weapon? Very few are these days. But what do I need this to do? And if I just need a completely, I'm only ever going to go out when it's absolutely flat, and I'm going out in the bay, or I'm going out and it's going to be less than 5 knots, and that's only time I'm going to go out. And if it's over 7 knots, I'm staying home. That's fine. Get yourself a little very low profile bow rider or something. Yeah, that's what you want. A little flat picnic boats, or even a pontoon boat or something. So I don't want to sort of genericize if that's um, certain types of boats to certain types of areas at this stage. It's not really fair. But that area of operation is so very important, because all too often I'm here in Melbourne, Victoria, on the Mornington Peninsula. We're off Port Phillip Bay. So many times I get on boats that are so adequately suited for Sydney waters, Broadwater, Queensland, all those sort of fairly, sheltered little harbours and bays. They're down here, and I won't go through the brands, but a lot of them are sort of, Targa Art sort of sports boats and things like that. And they'll go out in what I consider a day in the office on Port Phillip Bay and get absolutely owned. Like, this spray, and the boat's pounding and banging and swinging and swaying and carrying on. And people are like, but it's a beautiful day. The sun's shining, the skies are blue, and I'm out here and it's blowing 17 knots, but we've got a really short, sharp wave period here with chop. And these boats that don't quite do what they say on the box just get owned, and these people then use their boats less. But if they've picked these boats and they've gone, okay, well, I'm only going to go out when it's offshore, blowing offshore at, in the bay at 15 to 17 knots, that's fine. And if it's going to be blowing onshore anything more than about 10 knots, I'm just going to stay in the marina, because that's what I want. I just want comfy sunny days. So I'll give you an example. I had an owner who had bought a specific type of boat, and he bought it in Queensland from a dealer in Queensland. And the owner said, part of my lifestyle expectation is to be able to take the boat down to Hobart, down to Launceston, and I want to be able to do that on a fairly regular basis. Now, the boat wasn't that capable for that. Like, you would have to have one of the most pristine weather windows to be able to do that in this particular vessel. And the dealer said to the owner, well, it must be Bass Strait in Tasmania ready. There's a guy who owns one in Hobart. Now, I don't think that person, but to be fair to the dealer, I don't think he'd done a lot of time in these southern waters. Down here, we've got, a little bit more involved. We've also got a stretch of water, which is an entrance, which is, I believe, in the top 10 most treacherous stretches of water for shipping anywhere in the world, which is Port Phillip Heads. It doesn't have fire-breathing dragons at either side of it spitting balls of flame, but it needs to be respected. So choose your moment. Um, so the fella in Hobart, which if you look at Hobart, Tasmania, if you're not from Australia, you'll see that it's right to the very bottom part of Australia. It's off the mainland, and the waters there can be a little bit dicey at times. So the fellow who had one in Hobart is just using it around the islands and the waterways around Hobart, and then going out off the coast when the wind's offshore or there's nice calm. He's not doing this mainland to Tasmania trip on a regular basis. Now, the boat is capable of doing that, but in moderate conditions, light to moderate Bass Strait conditions, it would not be comfortable at all. For example, we actually had to put a gyro stabilizer in that boat just to make it work here inside our bay area. So, and I met him as a boating instructor, so I'm sort of glad I had met him and talked to him about what the actual parameters of this boat are and all that sort of thing. And needless to say, he didn't head off to Hobart. So then I met someone on that same boat who a dealer had sent down for me to show them over the boat. And I went, oh, okay. And the fellow who was looking at the boat, he'd done lots of research on the boats and efficiencies and fuel burn and all that sort of thing. And this boat, on paper, for fuel burns, efficiencies, all that sort of thing, looked really good because it had a very slippery underwater section. Like it didn't have a lot of dead rise, it didn't have a lot of belly in the hull. It was sort of, I guess you would call it a semi-displacement kind of boat, but there wasn't really any skeg keel to it. And so it was quite shallow. It was quite a shallow draft vessel. So that looks good on paper because then you're getting into these rivers, and when you get to these places, it's great. But I met this fellow on board. The dealer actually asked if I could show him through it, and I think the dealer doesn't really want to talk to me much these days because I've met this fellow. And I said, what do you want to do? He said, well, I've got friends in Launceston and we want to go down fairly regularly to Tasmania and we want to be able to... And I'm like, oh... Having met you, I can't lose sleep over you. So I'm going to have to say, this is not the boat for you. And that's just like, to say that, it's just within an industry. It's like, but at the end of the day, you have to put the safety of the people before anything else. You have to put your safety before anything else. And that's what we do. We put your safety before anything else. So anyway, he ended up not going ahead with that particular boat. Now, he ended up finding a boat. There's only very few of them. They're hand-built boats. It's a 44-foot boat. It's designed similarly to a sort of like a Maine lobster boat, or I think they also call them like downeasters, but a very, quite a decent keel. It had a single engine and a bow thruster, but a very sea-capable vessel. He bought that. At the time, it was well pre-COVID, so we wasn't buying it during that whole end of COVID craziness where people were just paying just silly dollars for boats. So he got himself a good boat at a good price, and he has been back and forth to Tassie several times. I've done a lot of instruction with him now. He's fully independent. He's doing his thing, and he just loves it. And it's kind of his forever boat. I don't think he has any desire to move into another boat because he got it right the first time. Now, if he got caught out in that and something a little bit snotty, like some weather that was a bit snotty, and he didn't quite get the right bead on the wind and the currents going across, he'd come out all right. But if he did the same sort of scenario, if that same sort of scenario happened in the boat that he was looking at that I met him on, he'd probably never go boating again. And there was a slight chance that he may not return. So this is what area of operation is so important. And it's more important here, we're in our waters, because we want people to be able to enjoy boats on a really good day, but your boat should be able to handle some moderate conditions. If you're in a good day, moderate conditions start rising up, the conditions start to change, and you've got to run home. You want to be able to do that reasonably comfortably, and you don't want to be able to you don't want to feel, or your friends or guests or family feel ill at ease with this boat. And that's why not always is the biggest boat the best thing. It's the boat that works in that scenario. It's, for example, area of operation. I've just recently been across the Great Australian Bight in a 44-foot boat that was built at the Wooden Boat Shop, and it is a very efficient vessel, 44-foot efficient, and it's not every condition kind of boat, but geez, they run really well and they surf really well and they just do what they said on the box. They're designed off that that main lobster boat style, and they're fairly sea capable vessels. Now, I know a lot of the boats that I've done boating instruction on in these waters are so ill suited because they've been bought off a brochure promise, and they've gone, oh, this looks great, and I'm going to, this is going to be great, but, if it gets a bit choppy, I'll just have to, and there's no compromise when it comes to the weather conditions. This is the thing, without being over dramatic about it, this is the thing that gets you out and gets you home, okay? So, and if you want to go that little bit further and that little bit longer, and you want to have that confidence in the cruising ability of a vessel, then you need to level up. And sometimes level up doesn't mean just go bigger. It means understand what you've got below the waterline is better. All right, so that's about 13 minutes now, so I've probably banged on about that a bit too long. I'd really love some feedback on these sessions with us. You can like, subscribe, and share would be fabulous. But yeah, drop some comments in below. I really look forward to reading them, and I would like to answer your questions as we go along. All right, happy boating. Bye for